Okay, good evening everyone. It's nice to see a lot of people here tonight. It's not night, it's still daytime. Got to stop saying tonight. It's good to see some old faces and there's some new faces around, which is quite nice as well. I've been away for a little while. Just for anybody that doesn't know who I am, my name is Ajahn Sādaro. I'm the resident monastic here at the Buddha Loka Centre. And that's all you need to know about me. You don't need to know too much more. That'll do. Is there anybody that's new here tonight that has never done any meditation before? No? Nobody's new? Everybody's an old hand? Everybody knows exactly what to do? Yeah, that's good. That means I don't have to say anything for another hour or so. I'll lead a bit of a guided meditation though, just for anybody that might be new. What we usually do is we usually sit for 45 minutes to an hour kind of thing, and then if you have any questions after that, you're more than welcome to ask. Same with anybody online. Hello, anybody that's out there in the ether kind of thing. Same kind of thing where if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Live chat? Yeah, you're more than welcome to ask any questions. So with that, we might get started then. So if you'd like to take a comfortable seat. Just sit in a position that's nice and relaxed for you. Could either be on the floor or could be on the chair. Doesn't really matter as long as we try to keep our back reasonably straight. Gives us a sense of alertness. We can just start off by paying a general sense of awareness to our surroundings. You might hear the sounds in the room, the sound of my voice, sounds from outside. You might feel the temperature in the air, or the play of light against your closed eyelids. You can take stock of these external factors of simply sitting here in this moment. And we can also internally take note of what it is that we experience right now. Maybe the different sensations inside our body. This feeling of the body sitting here in space, making slight adjustments and movements. And you can also notice any kind of mental states that might be in the mind. Any kind of feelings of residual restlessness or even calm and preparation. The goal here is to simply notice whatever you experience as it is right now. And anchor yourself in the present. And you might start to notice a certain rhythm or sort of movement in your experience. The rhythm of the breath going in and going out. The continual pulse of your heartbeat. The shifting and changing sounds that are around you. The moving sensations throughout the body. See if you can notice this flux, the life force all around you at the moment. And see if you can find some place of stillness, some center within that. Maybe resting our awareness in a particular place, like on our breath or our sensations. Or it may even just simply be the stillness and calmness of the mind while these things move through it. See if you can find this place of stillness within this movement. awareness itself doesn't require you to do anything. Its awareness already is. It's already still. It's already at ease. It's those things that arise within our awareness that cause the tension. The stillness of awareness itself is already there. We just have to notice what awareness actually is. And it's constant. It sounds and thoughts and images just appear in it. They're not awareness itself. See if you can just step back from all these objects and just rest as this aware state. There's no need to do anything, it's already there. Try to find the boundaries of your awareness. Does it somehow stop at the top of your head or at the soles of your feet? Does awareness somehow stop at the outer layer of your skin? See if you can find any definable, concrete boundaries of where the world begins and your awareness stops. And is there some sort of center to your awareness? Where does it emanate from? And where does it seem to stop? Investigate your experience and see if you can find either these boundaries or this center of awareness. last few minutes of the meditation. And just start to gently come back into this embodied sense of being. Noticing the feeling of the body sitting here. Maybe some of the stiffness or numbness, discomfort, the temperature, this feeling of the body, breathing, slightly moving. And ground yourself again in this embodied state, noticing the sounds. And any remaining tension that you may have. You can take a few deep breaths and try to release any of that residual tension. And again, come back to your present experience just as it is. Located within this body. Usually at the end of the meditation, you have to turn the lights on. You don't have to turn the lights on anymore. It's still bright. Anybody have anything come up in the course of the meditation? Any concerns? Any doubts? Any misunderstandings? Anything you'd like to share? Nope. Okay, let's go home. Cool. Anybody got any questions they'd like to ask? anything that's been coming up for them? Anything on there? Or might as well start with there. Get the ball rolling, the synapses firing.
Ajahn, there's one online question.
Yeah.
And it says, how to tell the difference between timeless peace, where time flashes by and sleep. How do you tell the difference between that?
Sorry, can you repeat that for me?
How do I tell the difference between timeless peace, where time flashes by, and sleep? So the difference between those two.
Yeah.
I am not sure, as I feel this beautiful peace, but as time goes by so quickly, maybe I was actually sleeping.
Yep. Yeah, it can be a hard one to discern in some instances. It might feel like you're very, very peaceful, and there's this kind of, you could say, disjoint from experience in some kind of way. And that can actually feel timeless. So you can have these experiences where the mind is really, really calm, and you can sit there and sort of hours can go by and you don't even really notice it that much. And in that, there is this kind of enlivened nature of the mind. It's very bright. It's very, there is this kind of settled awareness there that is awake. But if you are sort of becoming very peaceful, but then it's becoming, you could say, more kind of shallow and very, very kind of, very kind of shallow, it might drop into sleep there. And it can feel sometimes a little bit analogous to somebody that doesn't have a lot of experience between the two kinds of states. But there is a stark contrast there in that state of sleep. When you've dropped into sleep, it will feel like something's sort of turned off. Something's gone for a minute. Whereas these states where the mind is very calm and you can sit there and it is that timeless kind of calm, there is still an awake kind of nature to the quality of that experience. Even though there is this awake and alive quality of the experience, it's more about the perception of the passage of time that changes, as opposed to the time changing because you're not conscious of time in that moment. So it's something that you will start to discern a little bit more as you can strengthen your mindfulness and keep it alive and awake in those times. And you will have to go through these different kinds of experiences where sometimes you're becoming a lot more calm, and it can remain, and you can stay in that, as you said, that timeless kind of peace. But sometimes you'll just sort of drop off into sleep. So it's a matter of practicing a lot with it and examining the quality of the experience. Is, as I said, is time passing by because something's shut off, or is time passing by because your perception of time has actually changed? I think that's it can be one way to actually think about it. Either way, obviously the one you want to get to is that is alive and awake, and your perception of time just becomes distorted, and the kind of falling asleep one, that's not so great. But don't look at them as either or, like one's bad, one's good. It's already a good sign that you can make the mind so calm and so peaceful that it sort of drops off into sleep. There's nothing really bad about that in any kind of way. It's a good sign. All it really means is just that your mindfulness needs to be strengthened up a little bit. But so don't sort of take it of I've fallen asleep again. It's actually good. You're actually learning to calm the mind down. So it's a good way station. It's a good sign. So yeah, but I say that's how you would mainly tell the difference between those things. So yeah. Yeah. I can just also you can give him the mic, or I can repeat it, one or the other.
My question is just something that came up.
Yep.
It's quite general. I'm not sure if I'm going to articulate it properly,
That's
but can passion sort of come, like say passion for something, right? Can it come from like a state of consciousness and calmness, or I've always felt it to be like riding on waves of emotion that can sometimes feel that it's away from, being in that calm, conscious control. Because I guess the perception that I have is, that consciousness and calmness is, level and equanimous, sort of flat line, whereas things like passion can be based on more emotion that goes in waves.
Yeah, right. Yep.
But can that sort of passion for anything be, driven from consciousness as well?
So did you mean passion or compassion?
Passion.
And so what do you mean by passion? As
passion
in passion for something that's
ambition. Ambition for something, or passion for something anything someone could be passionate about in their life.
Yeah.
And wanting to commit to, it could be a personal thing, to be the best, to do their best at that.
Yeah.
But it's more, can it be, still driven from consciousness and still give your best to it, or? Yeah.
So is the question something like, is consciousness as it is that always, you could say, still and detached and removed and equanimous at all times? Or is it that there is that state of consciousness and these desires arise and move within that? Is that the question?
Yeah, sort of, but more so like, it's it.
Does it arise out of that stillness, or is it?
Can that, that willingness to be the best and do well at something, still arise out of consciousness and that stillness, or can it only really, occur from those waves of uncontrollable emotions?
Yep, I think I understand what you're talking about now. So obviously this passion, this desire, it comes in many forms. There can be like a kind of wholesome kind of desire to do something good, to fix something in the world, to change something, to share something with somebody, to do something beneficial, something moral, or something like that. Or it can be a kind of passion that is in some way sort of destructive. There's a passion that, I want to get particular kinds of, things just for myself. I want to be self-serving, or I want to achieve something in some kind of way. So there are these different kinds of passions, you could say, or passions or desires. Now, it's less likely that the more wholesome ones will arise out of that calm. It's more likely that these kinds of more, you could say, more altruistic kinds of desires or passions might arise from that calm state of, where consciousness is sort of like, you've stepped back into consciousness and it is still. It's less likely that if the mind is still in that kind of way, that the first sort of initial kinds of movements out of that will be let's go drill for oil and chop down a tree or something like that, or throw rubbish on the ground or something. There is a bit more of an emotive state, you could say, these kind of positive or skillful emotive states that arise out of that calm. So generally, just to clarify that, both states of these skillful or unskillful desires can arise out of the incessant waviness, but it's more likely that the more positive kinds of passions will arise out of the calm after the calm of consciousness than the unskillful kinds of passions that arise from that. Now, to sort of hone down in that on that a little bit more, there's this kind of assumption that some kind of goodness, some kind of compassion, some kind of very altruistic mind state is that mind state of consciousness as is, that stillness of consciousness. And I'm not so sure about that, and that sort of gets to something a little bit of what you said. This state of still consciousness is this kind of equanimous, kind of still, immovable kind of thing. So I'm not really sure if these kinds of wholesome emotions, you could say, arise at that same time. You might be in that state of stillness, but I think they can arise after. So the desires can arise after. But that doesn't mean the underlying phenomenological state is neutral in some kind of way. There is this kind of, you could say, joy, unity, elation, these kinds of feelings that sort of pervade it, but you can't really sort of identify them at that time of like, oh, that's joy. That's joy. Now that's elation. Now that's happiness. It is just this kind of underlying, you could say it's a very, very positive and even sometimes overwhelming emotional state that can arise from it. But again, it's sort of not the state of stillness and consciousness itself. It's something that arises because of it. So I don't know if I'm going too far down the rabbit hole of that kind of thing. But does that answer the question in some kind of way, or?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just to summarize, generally the kind of passions that will arise out of that calmness are they're usually more kind of wholesome kind of desires of, okay, yeah, I should be more compassionate to people. I should be more kind to people. Those kinds of desires, they're more the ones that will arise after it, as opposed to the okay, I'm going to manipulate people and I worked out how to lie to someone.
The reason I was asking is like, I guess in that context, a lot of people perceive, I guess, that idea of passion and energy is coming from a state of real like intensity and really high energy. But
right.
I was sort of looking at it more, kind of consciousness and that letting go, being detached.
Yeah.
It's still almost yields even greater and allows.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's if I'm understanding it properly, I think that's a little bit of a different kind of question as well. Yeah. So maybe I didn't answer it so well. And so so is the question something like, can a positive desire arise from a state of equanimity?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. So I think it can, because there's a kind of seeing what's useful in the world that arises from that kind of clarity of equanimity. If you're always getting pulled in some kind of way, your view or your inference of what the world is like is skewed to some kind of extent. It's coloured by the different emotions and all these kinds of things. Could be coloured in a bad way, or it could be coloured in a good way, but essentially it's coloured because we're sort of getting pulled around all over the place. But within that state of equanimity, there's a clarity that comes from that, and a clarity of knowing, okay, these are important things to actually go after. Again, things like being kind, being compassionate, being experiencing some sort of joy in the goodness of others, doing acts that benefit other people. There's a clarity that those things lead to more of these kinds of still and equanimous states. So they can, those desires to do something good can arise out of that equanimity. But just to really clarify, it's not like a one-to-one correlation kind of thing. It's not like you'll get the equanimity. It's like, great, now I have a strong desire to be compassionate at all times. But it can. It's more likely that it will sort of arise out of that. So yeah, does that make sense? Or
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, cool, good question.
Can take a second online question.
Yeah.
So this is, hi Ajahn.
Hi.
After a long day of work outside and being quite exhausted, how do I deal with nodding off during meditation once I get to a calm, peaceful state?
Just nod off. It's fine. Like, you're working outside all day. It's like it's hot. It's yeah, like there is this kind of natural tendency of look, you're physically very tired, so yeah, like nodding off a little bit is okay. You obviously you just don't want to make a kind of habit out of this thing. You don't want to make a habit of I have a job that requires me to work outside every day, so every day when I come back to meditate, I sit and I start to nod off. But every now and again you're going to nod off, and it's going to be sort of pretty normal. So the thing that you can do, if you are in that situation and it is sort of turning into a habit, you also have to one very practical thing is like look at just how you're sitting. Are you sitting on like a nice comfortable chair where everything's like cushy and you got the air conditioning on and you've just had a shower and everything's great and I'm all clean and comfortable and I'm leaning on some pillows and all these things when I meditate? And if you're sitting like that and you're sort of continuing to sit like that, like you're probably going to fall asleep. So there are just these simple things that you can do with your posture. Sit up straight. Don't try not to lean on anything while you're meditating. And even you can just do if it's becoming a real problem, you can even do things like standing meditation. You just you still stand there. You stand in a nice restrained kind of way, and you can sort of hold your hands there and just close your eyes and stand up for a little while if you are feeling sleepy, and then sit back down again. So these very kind of physical things that aren't really requiring you to exert too much energy because you've already expended a lot of energy during the day with your work can still be done. Simply just straightening the posture up or standing up or something like that. But yeah, you worked hard. You probably deserve to have a little kip, a little nap during the day. It's fine. So yeah. Anybody else? Any burning questions or just something you want to get off your chest? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, let's grab the mic.
Yes.
So I've been reading, past super recently, but the Pali Canon, mainly through Bhikkhu Bodhi's translations.
Nice.
And
good work.
Yeah, a lot of it makes sense, of course, but some bits I hear people say, if it's something you just hear once, it might not have been said necessarily. And so there's this one thing I don't really get.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't mind an opinion on, if that's
for
cool.
sure. Yeah.
So it's that bit where when they speak about arahants, it said that there can't be a lay arahant, and if someone lay person becomes one, he'll die within 7 days. If he's doesn't become a part of the sangha or something. Yeah. And not that I doubt the Buddha. It's just I'm just wondering how he gets from that state to that, and if you've got any insight. Yeah. What might have been behind him making that sort of a statement. Yeah.
So I don't have a perfect answer of like, they're gonna, you become an arahat and you if you don't change your clothes, you're gonna die, kind of thing. Like, I don't have a good answer to something like that. But the response that I've heard from a few like really good teachers is that if somebody was at the point where they truly become an arahat, it's like there's, in a way, the world sort of means nothing anymore. In a way, it's like you're not attached to anything in the world anymore. So it's like, well, there would be no real need for you to go, I need to, I have to stay here and I have to be a lay person because, I really want to drive a car or I really want to like do all these kinds of things. So there is more of this aspect. If somebody became an arahat, it just would seem the obvious thing to do, to spend the rest of their lives in sort of calm abiding as a monastic. But I'm not sure that the person, I'm not like you. I'm not really sure if the person would actually die or something like that. A lot of the times when we have these things that are, there's these kind of euphemisms that you might hear in the suttas, and like the way that it's translated now, it's like you you'd die kind of thing, but it could have meant something else at the time. It's not the greatest interpretation, but it's like, well, yeah. So I'm not sure if the person would actually die, but there is that kind of thing. Well, they really just wouldn't want anything anymore in the world. So the decision to maybe become a monastic or something like that would just be sort of the obvious thing to do. So I guess the bottom again. So look, that's really the only sort of opinion and answer. Yeah, don't really have a great answer on it, but it's I sort of asked the same question to someone, and a really good teacher at one stage, and he gave me the same kind of answer that I gave you, and he basically just said, well, just like try it out, see what happens, like do it and see what happens. And it's like be a layperson, become an arahant, and then try it for 7 days and see what happens. And if you die, it's like, well, okay, cool, you're still an arahant, so it's fine.
Thank you.
No problem. Sorry, it's not I just don't have a great answer to it, but yeah. Mm. Anything else online, Richard, or? Nope. Anybody else? All had enough? It's hot. Yeah. Yeah, if you want. I reckon. Yeah, for sure. No problem.
Just while sort of just like sitting, and as the meditation starts to go on, and the mind starts to quiet, and I'm no longer really focusing on anything. It's more an slightly more open awareness, and I'm just sort of noticing sensations as they come, sounds or warmth in this sit.
Yep.
But then I'll notice I'll have like a low level thought where I'll just notice, okay, well, that's warmth, or that's so forth. Yeah. But then at some point I'll notice the mind will just kind of quiet. But then when I notice that, I'll then notice that as an awareness, and then I kind of get back to that square one again. So do you have any sort of thoughts around, probably not just practice more, but when you get to that sort of trying not to notice that the mind has quieted, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So there's it's a good state that you're at. Like if you can actually sit and just notice things that are coming and going in that state of more open awareness, it's quite a good practice to be able to do. Quite a relaxing practice. There's no sort of striving or effort or energy there, so it doesn't feel that kind of tension or tension in that time. So it is a good state to get into. Now, the thing that you want to notice about that is that, and you alluded to it as like, I label this thing. Now, when you label, there's some sort of discursive thought in the mind that's actually language. That's actually language noticing it. Oh, it's warm. So that is more of a thought. That's not really noticing. The noticing will just be sort of, you will just notice this thing. There's no need to interpret it in any kind of language in some kind of way. It will just know that there's warmth. There's warmth. So if you notice there that the thoughts move into that kind of language territory or image territory, then you can sort of think, you can sort of notice it as like, maybe that's not noticing. That is thought. Now it's a thought of noticing something, but it's still actually just a thought. So if you can do that and sort of step back from that and again just say, that was a thought, that wasn't really noticing, you can either go one or two ways. Things can go really still and really calm again, or you can get into this kind of feedback loop of oh no, I'm thinking again, I'm thinking about thinking. So I'd notice the quality of your noticing, and this is something that can be that can be a little bit, because you can get tricked by it pretty easily. If your mind isn't really still, isn't really calm, if you're not in that kind of center place of, there's an underlying calm there that isn't labeling, that isn't noticing, then you might just sort of sit and say, oh, there's the sound, there's the birds, there's the, well, these kinds of things, but it still hasn't dropped to that level of calm, that real level of calm where things just are. So, you can sort of alternate a little bit. You can go into these kinds of open awareness kinds of practices and do these, and again, good thing to do. But then you can sort of vacillate in your practice a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to move back to more like developing a bit more of that calm and trying to develop a bit more of that center or a bit more of that kind of stillness and concentration, and do that for a little while. And when that sort of gathers back in, and it gathers back into this place of stillness again, and it actually is still and it is calm, so okay, just drop all that again. And just let things be still. And then you can actually start to, a thought comes, and it's just, you just notice that it's a thought. Or it's some sort of image, and you just notice the thing there, or you notice the temperature. So you just have to be, just to conclude, so it's a good state to be at anyway, if you already sort of can find some kind of quiet, some kind of calm, and there is a bit of, it's a bit of linguistic thought, and you're sort of chasing your tail a little bit, but then it drops back and forth between that. That's a good thing. That's a good thing as it is already. So, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But this next step that I sort of recommend, it's just more of a next step down that you want to sort of be a little bit more aware of in that kind of process. And if you can, it is quite nice, because you start to notice the difference between awareness itself and just being aware of something, as opposed to interpreting what is arising within awareness. Does that make sense? Or?
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah. And would gathering that calm, so oscillating between those states, would that be, say, returning to noticing the breath, or would that picking something to sort of zero in on?
Yeah, it could be whatever really sort of works for you, that you've historically that you've found actually does calm your mind and drop it into that point of stillness, or that point of calm. So yeah, it can be something like vacillating between just staying focused solely on the breath and then moving to more open practices. So it could be something like that. I think it's one thing I try to emphasize quite a lot. It's good to have a balanced practice. A lot of people get into this, I just do Vipassana, or I just do open awareness, or I just do non-dual awareness, or I just do this. It's like, no, have a good balance of many different kinds of practices, and these will actually support you they'll support each other in different kinds of ways. So yeah, going back to something like the breath is, if that has worked for you before, then that's a good thing to do.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool.
Ajahn, there's one more question if we've got.
Is it a question about like what gets born after you die, or something? It's dependent. Is about?
It's not. I think it's a good one to finish on, actually.
Okay. It
says, Ajahn, can you advise on how to spread metta after meditation to people that I dislike?
Yeah. So again, spreading metta to people that you dislike, it's not the easiest kind of first thing that you can do. It is something that you have to build up to a little bit. You have to develop that capacity to give metta to people that you do like, and also to the capacity to give metta to yourself as well, before you can actually move on to people that you dislike. So I think it's a gradual process. If you do find it hard to develop metta for people that you dislike, you just gradually move up to that level of people that you do like, people that you're grateful for in your life, and then you can start to move it onto more like neutral kind of people. And then, when you start with people that you don't like, don't start with somebody that you really hate. Like, don't start there. Just start with somebody that just annoys you just like a little bit. Like, this guy does this thing and it sort of annoys me. And see if you can develop metta for that person. You don't want to develop, you don't want to start with somebody that is just awful to you in some kind of way. So again, just gradually move up to it. And the more that you actually practice this, the easier it will be able to come to develop kindness towards the people that you don't like. And something that gives that power, that gives you the power to do that is, actually learning to make your mind more calm and developing these kinds of positive states in the mind that has arisen from calm. If you can develop these, say through watching the breath or something like that, then it does actually become easier for you to develop these positive qualities of metta and things like that towards other people after. But if you're sitting there the whole meditation, it's like, God, my legs are sore, it's taking so long, why is it so hot, why is the baby crying next door, and all these kinds of things, and then you go, okay, I've had this like uncomfortable meditation, then it's like, okay, I'm going to try to develop metta for somebody that I don't like. You're probably not going to be able to do it that well. So developing the calm and having you could say a calm and still and peaceful sit is actually beneficial to be able to eventually develop loving kindness towards people you don't like. Cool. So with that, we might call it a night. Is there anything to announce? Yes, that's yep. Is me again. So I've been away for a little while, and now you're going to get an overspill of me in some kind of way. I'm going to get saturated by me. But yeah, just for anybody that didn't hear online, and if you're in Melbourne, we have the talk next Sunday morning, and I will be giving that talk, and also be doing the next Monday evening meditation. And with that, that's about it. Okay. Yeah. Not at the moment. I haven't really thought about it too much yet. I'm still sort of jet lagged. So okay, with that we'll say good night then.